45 men, 3 hours, 1 Marine, and the 46th Rescue. Killed him. July 7, 1944. Saipan, Marianas Islands. Private First Class. Harold Agerholm made a decision that morning that would save dozens of lives and guarantee he'd never make it home. This is his story. Everything you're about to hear comes from official military records, Medal of Honor documentation, and verified historical accounts. No embellishment, just what actually happened. Harold Christ Agerholm was born on January 29, 1925, in Racine, Wisconsin. When he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps on September 27, 1943, he was 18 years old. After completing boot camp at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island, he was assigned to the 4th Battalion, 10th Marines, 2nd Marine Division, Artillery Battalion. His job was supporting the big guns, moving ammunition, maintaining equipment. By June of 1944, his unit was aboard transport ships heading for the Mariana Islands as part of Operation Forager. The target? Saipan. Saipan was critical to the Pacific War. If American forces could take it, B-29 Superfortress bombers would be within range of mainland Japan for the first time. The Japanese knew this, which meant they would defend the island with everything they had. The Marines landed on June 15, 1944. What was supposed to take 3 days turned into 3 weeks of brutal combat. By early July, American forces had pushed the remaining Japanese defenders into the northern tip of the island. The enemy was cornered, running out of supplies, facing certain defeat. The Japanese commanders made their final decision. Gyokusai, an honorable death. One massive counterattack with everything they had left. At approximately 4:30 a.m. on July 7, 1944, between 3,000 and 4,000 Japanese soldiers launched the largest Banzai charge of the Pacific War. The attack hit the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 105th Infantry Regiment. Within the first hour, the Japanese broke through American lines and overran artillery positions belonging to the 10th Marines. The official Marine Corps history records that command posts were overrun, communication lines were cut, and entire units were fighting hand-to-hand just to survive. Wounded Marines were scattered across the battlefield between American and Japanese positions. Medics and ambulance drivers attempting to reach them came under immediate and intense fire. Multiple rescue attempts were turned back. This is where Private First Class Agerholm enters the official record. According to his Medal of Honor documentation, he was serving with the 4th Battalion, 10th Marines, 2nd Marine Division, when the Japanese counterattack began. The official account states, "When the enemy launched a fierce, determined counterattack against our positions and overran a neighboring artillery battalion, Private First Class Agerholm immediately volunteered to assist in the efforts to check the hostile attack and evacuate our wounded." He didn't wait for orders. He volunteered. The military record continues. Locating and appropriating an abandoned ambulance jeep, he repeatedly made extremely perilous trips under heavy rifle and mortar fire. An abandoned ambulance jeep. Other drivers had been forced to leave it behind when the fire became too intense. Agerholm got in and drove into the combat zone. What happened next is documented in the official report. He single-handedly loaded and evacuated approximately 45 casualties, working tirelessly and with utter disregard for his own safety during a grueling period of more than 3 hours. 45 wounded Marines. 3 hours. Trip after trip after trip, driving across open ground under sustained enemy fire. No one ordered him to keep going. Officers tried to make him stop. He kept going back. The official Marine Corps history of the Saipan campaign describes the morning of July 7th as chaotic, with casualties mounting faster than they could be evacuated. Medical personnel were overwhelmed. Ambulance routes were under constant fire from Japanese snipers, mortars, and machine guns. Standard evacuation procedures had broken down completely. In that environment, Private First Class Agerholm spent 3 hours making repeated solo rescue runs. The historical record doesn't describe his thoughts. It doesn't tell us what he felt. It just records what he did. After 3 hours of continuous rescues, the documentation records what happened next. Despite intense, persistent enemy fire, he ran out to aid 2 men whom he believed to be wounded Marines but was himself mortally wounded by a Japanese sniper while carrying out his hazardous mission. He saw 2 figures on the battlefield, assumed they were Americans who needed help. He left the jeep and ran toward them on foot. A Japanese sniper was waiting. Private First Class Richard Agerholm was killed in action on July 7, 1944. He was 19 years old. The final paragraph of his Medal of Honor commendation reads, "Private First Class Agerholm's brilliant initiative, great personal valor, and self-sacrificing efforts in the face of almost certain death reflect the highest credit upon himself and the U.S. Naval Service. He gallantly gave his life for his country. The Medal of Honor was awarded posthumously. His family received it on his behalf." According to military records, the Japanese counterattack on July 7th resulted in approximately 4,300 Japanese and 1,000 American casualties. It was the deadliest day of the Battle of Saipan. Without effective casualty evacuation, the American death toll would have been significantly higher. Private First Class Agerholm's actions directly resulted in 45 wounded Marines reaching medical treatment. 45 men who otherwise would have died on that battlefield. The Battle of Saipan officially ended on July 9, 1944, 2 days after Agerholm was killed. American forces secured the island. Construction of B-29 airfields began immediately. By November of 1944, those airfields were operational, and American bombers were reaching Japanese cities. The strategic objective that cost so many lives, including Agerholm's, was achieved. Private First Class Richard Agerholm is buried in St. Paul's Lutheran Cemetery in Caledonia, Wisconsin. His grave marker includes his name, his dates of service, and a notation, Medal of Honor recipient. Every year on Memorial Day, people still visit his grave, not because he was famous, not because his name is widely known, but because what he did on July 7, 1944, matters. There are certain things we can verify about that day. We know approximately 45 wounded Marines were evacuated by a single individual operating an ambulance jeep under intense fire. We know this continued for more than 3 hours. We know Private First Class Agerholm was killed while attempting to rescue 2 additional casualties. We know his actions were deemed worthy of the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. What we don't know is what he was thinking, whether he was afraid, what made him keep going back when anyone else would have stopped. The official records don't tell us that. They just tell us what he did. And sometimes that's enough. The award document uses the word volunteered. That's the key word. He wasn't ordered to evacuate casualties. That wasn't his job. He was artillery support, not a medic, not an ambulance driver. When the counterattack hit and wounded Marines were trapped in the open, someone had to make a choice. Agerholm chose to help, and then he chose to keep helping. Trip after trip after trip for 3 hours straight until a sniper's bullet ended it. The historical record shows us something important about courage. It's not always loud. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's just a 19-year-old from Wisconsin who sees people who need help and decides he's going to be the one to help them. Even when it's dangerous. Even when it's probably going to get him killed. Even when no one would blame him for staying in cover. He went anyway. 45 families received telegrams in the summer of 1944 informing them their sons had been wounded on Saipan. But their sons were alive. They were coming home. One family in Racine, Wisconsin, received a different telegram. The Marines regret to inform you. That's the trade Private First Class Agerholm made. 45 lives for one. The official language calls it gallantly giving his life for his country. But it's more specific than that. He gave his life for 45 individual human beings who needed help in that moment. That's what the official record shows us. That's what actually happened. Stories like this are in the historical record, but they don't get told nearly enough. We focus on the big battles, the famous generals, the turning points everyone remembers. But the Medal of Honor database is full of names most people have never heard. Young men, often teenagers, who did something extraordinary in a moment of crisis. Richard Agerholm's name is in that database. July 7, 1944. Saipan, Mariana Islands, age 19, single-handedly evacuated approximately 45 casualties under sustained enemy fire over a 3-hour period. Killed in action while attempting to rescue additional casualties. Those are the facts. If you want to hear another story like this, there's one from Iwo Jima that's almost impossible to believe. February 1945. Private First Class Jacklyn Lucas. He was 17 years old. He'd lied about his age to join the Marines and got to Iwo Jima on the 4th day of the invasion. When Japanese grenades landed in his squad's position, he threw himself on top of not one, but 2 grenades. Both grenades detonated, and somehow, he survived. That story is next. These names are more than records. They are reminders of what it means to go above and beyond. To help us preserve these stories for the next generation, subscribe to the archive now. To see another story of impossible courage, click the video on your screen. Every citation is a life. Every life is a story. Thank you for honoring them with us.